Every leader knows that a thriving organization depends on the energy, productivity, and commitment of its people. But few leaders are able to cultivate the employee engagement and performance needed for this level of success. What's the difference? Positive leadership practices. Welcome to the Positive Leadership Movement Podcast with your host, positive work culture expert, Alex Bratty. Ready to harness the power of positive leadership? Let's dive right in.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Positive Leadership Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bratty, and I'm really looking forward to talking to today's guest because she is an outstanding leader who knows what it's like to work your way to the top and help others do the same. And today we're going to talk to her about how to overcome obstacles to up-level your career. Her name is Cherie Dumond, and she spent years building a successful corporate career in the pharmaceutical and clinical research industries, managing and training hundreds of people. During her long tenure, she became a sought-after strategic growth navigator, starting multi-million-dollar divisions for corporations looking to diversify their portfolios. And after conquering the male-dominated boardroom, Cherie's passion for giving others, and especially women, their voices in their careers and lives continues to grow. And now Cherie is the queen of confidence. With over 20 years experience of mentoring business and sales leaders, Cherie is a renowned expert at confidence, success, and empowerment. She is a speaker and the creator of the groundbreaking revolutionary program, Uncrushing Your Confidence. She helps professionals build unshakable confidence, squash self-doubt, gain executive presence, and take their career and lives to the next level. Welcome, Cherie. It is so great to have you on the show.
It's so great to be here. I'm delighted. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And I really am so excited to hear all about what you have to share around, helping people up-level their careers and this whole notion about, uncrushing your confidence. I want to unpack all of that with you. And we're going to jump into all of that. And just before we do, though, I have to do this because I do it with all my guests.
Yep.
Tell us first the crucial question. What does positive leadership mean to you? So we know where you're coming from as we dive into this conversation.
Well, it means to be authentic. A lot of people think once I get into that management position, I have to act a certain way, especially women. I have to act like a man to get up to the boardroom or to the big conference room or to that corner office. And that is not true. Especially women, we bring unique attributes to every position. We're more empathetic. We are more open-minded. We do listen more. We have great listening skills. And, we trust our instincts. And if we see fear, we go towards it. Good leaders go towards it. They don't back away, and they power through it, and they use that fear to energize them.
Oh, I love that. What a powerful definition. And I can so relate to that whole notion of, needing to be authentic, but it's hard, especially as a woman. I mean, I know when I was in that corporate world, I certainly was in a very masculine environment. Mm-hmm. And I know that as Brene Brown would say, I put on my armor. I would put on my armor every single day. And I'll admit, I'm still learning to not wear that armor, to be completely authentic in what I do. Because I feel like it's so ingrained in us that we have to project, this persona or this way of being to feel like we're accepted or we're respected in the workplace. So I so love that you called that out, that whole notion of authenticity. And also this idea that we move towards fear, right? That, courage isn't just, deciding that, okay, we're fearless. Nothing's going to matter. Yeah. Nothing's going to phase us. It's seeing the fear and deciding that you're going to go do it anyway. It's working through that. So I love the definition. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the work that you do, because I feel like it's so important for our audience. You help people up level their careers, and you're helping especially women find this voice and be more authentic, help them with their confidence. Like, tell us, like, what do you see people struggle with most in their careers in the work that you do?
Um, their confidence, they just don't have the confidence to believe in their dreams and believe it can happen for them. They don't believe that they can take that next step because they see themselves in that pigeonhole. I'm not going to raise my hand because everybody will think I'm dumb, or I don't have anything to contribute. And the truth is, they have a lot to contribute and a lot to put forward. They just have to get that confidence to do it. And part of what we do is build up on their strengths, because everyone has some strengths. Every one of us can look in the mirror and say, this is great, and this is great. But we also take those weaknesses and we work through the process to build those weaknesses up so that they can feel like they can blossom. And it's about blossoming. And I know for me, in my career over the years, and I've watched this with client after client, it's about building. You do blossom, you do build, and then something happens. You get that sucker punch and you get laid off, or your job ends and suddenly, and you don't know what to do. But if you have true confidence, it's going to hold you steady, and you're going to pick yourself back up and you're going to go on to the next adventure.
Yeah. And wow, what a great point you make. I mean, it's so true. We can kind of build our confidence. And then if we have those moments where it's sort of like, you feel like you got whacked by the 2x4, like, hey, everything was going great. What just happened?
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to then fall into that cycle of self-doubt. I suck. I'm not good enough. I knew, the imposter syndrome. I knew that,
Yep.
have been flying high like that. The universe just told me you don't get to do that, and it's easy to fall back into that. So, being able to maintain that confidence and know that, hey, okay, this happened, but I can rebuild. And also sometimes, I don't know if you see this with your clients, but realizing that sometimes when you have those things happen, it's a blessing in disguise. It's the
Yes.
prompt you needed to make a change you never would have made on your own, or, and you can never see it when you're in it. It feels so painful when you're in it. But a little while longer, you can look back and say, wow, if that awful thing had never happened, all these amazing things wouldn't have happened either. Do you find that with your clients?
All the time. And even in my career, I found that when I was going through it, I couldn't really see. You can't see the light through the fog. But I learned, and sometimes right after I got laid off. There was one job when I got laid off. I was so miserable. I was going home crying myself to sleep every night. I could barely go to work. I was calling in sick, and that's not what I do. I just found that I was just absolutely miserable. And the moment they said, we're laying you off, here's your box, clean out your office, I was like, at first shocked, and it was a sucker punch. And then it was like, I can breathe again. I can move forward. And
they liberated you, Cherie.
Yeah, I let myself mourn. I always talk about this with my clients that lose their jobs. You really have to let yourself mourn over that position, because you did lose something. It is a loss to you.
Yep.
But don't stay there.
Yeah.
What's your plan to move on and get to the next adventure, whatever that adventure is? Some people it is the next job, or even a higher level job, or it's starting a business. There is so much out there for people that they just have to have their eyes open to what the possibilities are.
Yeah, exactly. And what a insightful point that you make about the mourning, right? I mean, people think grieving is about a person. And of course we grieve for people, don't get me wrong, but you can grieve for loss of routine things. I mean, this is part of, it's a big part of who we are, our work. It takes up most of our day, our waking hours. And so when that is stripped away, there's kind of like this identity crisis. It's very much like you said, it's like the loss of something really, really important. So better to pause and actually allow that process to happen, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So how do you, when you're working with your clients and, helping them up level, like what kind of obstacles do people run into? Like what holds them back from actually doing that? And then we'll get into like, how does the confidence building exactly happen? But I just want to sort of get into some of the, these are the things that happen. These are the obstacles, because I want listeners to know that if you're going through something like this, you're not alone. Because we often think we are, right? We think we're alone putting on our armor, or we think we're alone and feeling so lost because, we lost the job or this is happening or whatever. But we never are. Other people are always almost experiencing very similar, having the same similar experiences. So tell us a little bit about what you see in terms of like what holds people back. So maybe they can identify themselves a little bit in some of this.
Words I hear all the time are, I'm paralyzed, I'm frozen, I can't go forward. And when you start looking at it, it's the fear of unknown. And to me, fear is a perspective. We all need fear. And you talked about that. We need to be a little bit scared of certain things. For me, it's heights.
Me too, definitely. Right there with you, sister.
That's okay. I'm not like, that's a fear I can live with. But I can't be fearful of what if I do this and take this action is going to happen to me. What are all the bad things that could happen? And you can't stay paralyzed in that area. You need to be able to move past that. And one thing I often give a lot of my clients, and I talk to my group, my Confident Success Circle, they get weekly emails, and we talk a lot about this. You make a fear list. In fact, I spent 2 months talking about fear because there's so much around it. But make a fear list. Put down your fears and in your journal, and then write what is realistic about that fear and what is not realistic about that fear.
Right.
And that will really put it in light that, okay, if I do this, I'm not going to lose everything in my life. I'm not going to be homeless. I always use the homeless. I'm not going to be on the side of the street.
Right.
Because I have options. These are my options. This won't happen because of that. So why can't I take that risk? Why can't I move forward and go for my dreams? Yeah. And I teach a lot about that.
Yeah. And that is a fantastic way of dealing with fear, right? Because even sometimes the act of putting it on the paper takes the air out of the balloon, right? Like, it's all there inside our head. It rolls around. It's that voice that won't shut up. I mean, we all know what I'm talking about here, right? Yes. Like, we all know this. Yes. And the minute you start writing it, I mean, sometimes when you write down your fears, they literally look so ridiculous on paper that you end up laughing. Like, not all of them do. And I don't want to discount anybody's fears at all. But some of them are kind of ridiculous, right? And especially, like you said, if you follow it to the nth degree, like what is the absolute worst case scenario that could happen if, I'm making it up, I decide to open my own business? Well, the absolute worst scenario is that it fails, right? And okay, so if it fails, what does that mean for me? And for very few people, does it mean that you are going to end up like homeless, starving, just completely, out of life, right? It's not going to be that. Is it going to be pleasant? No, but it's not life threatening, right? It's not this massive thing that we need to have fear about. And yeah, I mean, also even thinking about like, what's the likelihood that this particular outcome is going to happen, right? Because that also helps us think about, well, I don't really think that will happen because you know what? I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And just that process makes us start to think more about, okay, maybe I'm capable of doing this. You know, maybe I can actually do it after all.
Yeah. And even if you do fail and you do have a failure, what can you take away from that to help
Right.
fuel you in the future? Because there is a lesson in every failure, and it's all perspective. You know, it's all shifting and changing your perspective of how you look at things.
Yeah. Oh, amen to that. Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, failure, gosh, I think even just like 5, 7 years ago, failure was like this word not in my vocabulary. Do not even
Yeah.
talk to me about that. Like I am all
Yeah.
about figuring out success, success, success.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, then I set up my own business, and you learn very, very quickly that failure is actually your friend, and that you want some failure because it's the only way that you can learn. It's the only way that you can get better. It's the only way you can grow your business. And now my perspective, as you said, shifting your perspective, is failure is just an opportunity to learn. Like that is it. I don't even consider it a failure anymore. It's like, oh, well, that didn't work. Okay. Well, what can we learn from that? Let's not do it again. Let's figure out a new way. Moving on, you know?
Yeah.
It becomes so much less this thing in the room, right?
Definitely. I just heard this story, and it's so great and really tells about shifting your perspective. So this teacher gave a pop quiz. Remember pop quizzes from our days in school? So all the students came in, and they had a piece of paper on their desk turned over, and he said, "Turn it over." And in the middle of it was a red dot. And that red dot was all that was on that piece of paper. And he said, "I want you to write about what you see and turn it in." And every student wrote about that red dot. But there's all this white area on the paper that they could have written about. And what if you wrote about the opportunities around that? And just it's shifting your perspective.
Yeah. I love that. Wow, that is a powerful exercise. I have to say, though, if I were in that class, I would have been really maddened by that exercise. It's way too abstract for me. As listeners of this show know, I am a researcher. I'm a linear thinker. Like
Yes.
Obviously I don't live completely, totally in my left brain, but I am pretty left brain lopsided. And so when presented with something as abstract as that, my first reaction is just like, what? But if I'm forced to do it, then, I learn from it. I grow from it. I like living in my right side of my brain when I go there. It's just that I have to sometimes be pushed over there.
I'm right there with you.
So, I love that. I love that exercise just for thinking about how it would affect me, but I love it for its purpose. I mean, that is a really powerful way to look at it, and how perspective could really shift. I love it. So Cherie, talk to us about, how do you build confidence in the people you work with and help them get to that point where they really do feel authentic in their leadership position, like they're not dealing with the whole imposter syndrome thing. Somebody's going to find me out, like I really shouldn't be here, I'm not good enough. And really get to, as you said, like up leveling, getting to that next level, moving to that place. Tell us a little bit about that.
So there's a number of ways we do this, and everyone is a little bit different because everyone is in a little different place. But you have to make some shifts. And I see a lot of things out there on confidence, and you can build up your confidence and with a theme song. And I love that. I love having my theme song, but that's not going to make me more confident. Or my clothes that I wear when I walk into a room. Yeah, it makes I feel good, but it's not the true confidence that comes from inside and out and lasting. And we talked about the lasting because you never know what's going to happen in life.
Right.
COVID has been a great example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so, and I'm going through these shifts that people can do and to make advancements. And the first one is knowing who your core values, knowing your true core values. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't really know what core values are. And you can Google core values, a list of core values. You can Google anything, but you can list those. I found lists with 200, 300, 400, 500 core values. There are so many different values. And you start narrowing it down to what are those values that you, um, for the people that you admire, what are the values you admire in them? Are those some of the core values that you want to have in your life? And if you don't have them in your life, could you adopt those and make those yours? Because there's no reason you can't take it too.
Yep.
and just start building from there. And if you have your core values, all your decisions are going to come from there. And that is just making you to that next level of confidence, because no matter what, you're going to act with those core values in mind. You know, you're not going to be that manager that's a bully boss, or you're not going to be that leader that isn't inclusive of everyone on the team and it respects opinions, because you have those core values. You don't have to be like anyone else, and we're all unique.
So it's almost like those core values are like the foundation that we're creating for ourselves, so we can like stand strong even when challenged, right? So if we have to make a difficult decision, we can basically stand in those core values and use them as our like foundation to make that decision. Is that kind of okay? And how many core values would you recommend, right? Because you're right, like if you Google it, you're going to come up with like oodles, right? So what should people, you know, be looking to sort of narrow it down to?
I always think in threes. My brain thinks in threes. You know, I learned a long time ago, if you watch a lot of people who give great speeches, they always talk in threes.
Yep.
So I always think three, but 3 to 5 is a really good number to have and help guide you. It's not that you can't add more and take some away, because everything changes in life. When you're 20, your core values may not be exactly the same as when you're 40 or 50.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to use the 50 because I just saw the Forbes 50 over 50 list coming out, and I was so empowered by that list. It's like, and our new vice president was number 3. So I was feeling good for
awesome.
all the women on that list.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Awesome. Okay. So that's the first shift, is really identify those core values, 3 to 5 of them, so that becomes kind of, you know, the beginning point, the foundation. And then what comes next, Cherie?
So we start setting goals. And I always say, pick a destination that's worthy of you. So don't limit yourself, because you have been limiting yourself. Open up and start dreaming. Start thinking about, what if I could have that big goal that I've always wanted? What if I want to start a business, or if I want to be to the next level, or the next level past that? Maybe I want to take my boss's job. You know, it's why can't you work your way up to do that? But you've got to set your goals. You've got to set a plan. So definitely the destination that is worthy of you. And I spend a lot of time talking to women that just say, like I said, frozen, stuck, paralyzed, and they're the ones that are holding themselves back. And people have to realize that you are the CEO of you. So run your career, run your life like you are in charge, because you are. No one else is. There's not a boss over you, or you may report to a boss and have to play by some rules, but you are the one who makes every decision. And that's where the core values, again, drive all those decisions.
Wait, we just have to pause here. I just want to repeat what you said, because it is so powerful. You are the CEO of you. Wow. What a great, great reminder, right? We are responsible for what we do. And you're right. So it's very easy, especially if you're working for someone else, to kind of blame it on them. Oh, my boss made me do it. My boss is horrible. I hate my job because of my boss. However, we all do have choices. We all make decisions every day that aren't anything to do with that boss. And we are the CEO of ourselves, right? So thank you. That is a really good reminder that it's up to us. If we want to make change, we have to make it. We have to be responsible for what we are doing. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very powerful when you start realizing that you have the control to do anything that you want. Yeah. You may have a spouse or a partner that you have to talk to and say, this is the decision I came to, this is why. And they should support you in that, and help you move forward.
I love that. I love that. And I know there's going to be a third shift because you think in threes.
Well, there's actually 5.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. I like it. I like 3 to 5. So keep going. Okay.
Here's three to 5 in this one. So yeah, the next one is building your brand, and the brand is about. I always think of the best brands that you know. Oprah is her brand. Martha Stewart is her brand. She's shifted over the years in what her brand is, but she's still her brand. Excuse me. And it's how you present. It's how you present at meetings. It's how you present yourself. You don't have to wear a ton of makeup. You don't have to wear the nicest clothes. You don't even have to wear heels, but you have to be presentable. And there is a certain presentable for the conference room or the Zoom room now. You know, we're all presentable from the neck up. Exactly. We were just talking about this.
Yep.
But you know, it's how you present yourself, and then being able to tell a story. When you're talking to people, they want to hear a story, and usually it's a journey of the hero and how he progresses and gets through the rough time, or she gets through the rough time, and then comes out on the other end and has these options. And when you're presenting your question in a Zoom meeting, raising your hand and getting noticed and being able to present in a very strong way. And that was always a very difficult thing for me, even starting in my career. When I came out of college, I did not want to be noticed in the room. And I was the marketing assistant to the VP of marketing, and I didn't want to be noticed, but she was a very flamboyant, very larger than life woman, still is a great mentor. But I'm like, I could never be like that. I could never. No. And I held myself back a lot. It wasn't until she said, you're presenting to 1,100 people, that I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Deep breaths, right? Especially at that age and that level, right? Like that's young. That's it. That's 1,100 people. That'll take your breath away fast if you're trying to hide.
Yeah, running to Toastmasters.
I believe it. Yeah.
So yeah, you know, you get forced into those situations, but over the years, I've learned and helped teach my clients that they can present, and it does take practice, and even presenting questions that they're going to have at Zoom meetings, because we all know that there's a lot of men still dominating the conference rooms. And how do you get noticed, and how do you put your voice out there? And that's a continuing evolving piece, especially on Zoom, but there are many things you can do to do that. And part of it is practicing. That's the biggest tip I can give everyone. Practice, know what you're going to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't end up with all the ums and the ahs and the stuttering and all the rest of it, because it just takes the oomph out of whatever you want to say or your question, right? People just get distracted with all of that.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. So so we've got get your core values. The second step was then
a destination worthy of you. That's right.
The goals, and then brand yourself. Start practicing. Start realizing like you have to have a certain way of presenting yourself. And then what's 4 and 5? What are 4 and 5?
Well, 4 is the branding. And then 5 is the invest in a mentor. So invest the time. And if you don't know anyone that you want as a mentor, Look for a coach that can support you. I've, since early in my career, have invested in coaches all the way through. And I believe in investing in coaches because it only makes me better. I started my own business. Did I know anything about marketing online?
Right.
I better have the best coach I could find to help me learn how to do that. That was a new world to me. And, even I always look over when I do this, my Peloton, which is next to me.
Oh, yay. Good for you.
Yeah, my Peloton. But I don't know those coaches, but they're my coaches every single morning. They are rooting me on to be the best that I can be. And if you want to up level your career, make coffee dates. Now it's virtual coffee or virtual lunches that you can have and talk to that person. I talked a lot about my Confident Success Circle about having a board of directors, and it is 3 to 5 people that you pick to help guide your career. And that can be people that and that aren't necessarily friends. They're professional colleagues, but you make a board of directors of your own because you are the CEO. Again, we go back to that CEO, and you should have a board of directors.
Yes. And be careful how you pick them though, right?
Yes. Yes.
You need to have people around you that actually are your champions, that support you, that want to see you succeed, that have your best interests at heart. You got to pick those board members well. But I totally agree with you in terms of having the coach or the mentor. And same, I did the same thing too when I set up my own business. I knew some business stuff, but I didn't know the whole online world. And, I tried to figure it out for myself for a little while. And I rapidly discovered that, I could figure this out, but it'll take me years. Why would I bother? I mean, and that's the other thing about having a coach or a mentor is that they shorten the learning curve immensely, right?
Yes.
And especially if you are doing something like starting a business, that is so crucial in terms of just the practical implications, the cost savings in the long run. Yes, you may be investing money in the coach, but boy, is it going to save you a lot of money in the long run because you're going to progress so much faster and get your clients so much faster and grow the business so much faster. And hey, your career, if you're in the corporate world, I mean, sometimes we've used the analogy here of setting up your own business, but if that's not you, this still applies. I mean, sometimes I think when we're in the corporate world, we just figure that, I get the training that my company offers me and, I get my annual review or my biannual review. And so that's where I'm learning. And my boss is kind of my mentor. And that's all well and good. Don't get me wrong, but that is not enough. That is not enough if you want to up level. It's not enough if you want to, like you said, brand yourself, start to really get noticed so that you can get to that next level. It's like you need these other resources, whether it be formal coaching or a mentoring, like it helps you immensely move forward and much, much faster than you would if you just kind of, go along on the track as if like, well, it's just kind of happening to me,
Yeah. You have to be the pioneer and the steward of your own career or your own business. You have to be able to have a direction and then figure out what's the fastest way for me to get there and not wait. And this statistic sticks in my head for white collar jobs, not having confidence and not doing that costs $28,000 a year.
Wow.
Now do that times 40 years you work.
Exactly.
That's, I think it's $1.2 million over a career. That is costing you. So it's easier to invest and be able to have that mentorship and have someone that's going to tell you the positive and the negative, because we don't all want to sugarcoat it, and help get you to that next level.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I got to ask this question about, I'm going to go back to one of your earlier stages about setting the goals and having the vision, right? Because what was coming to my mind, and I struggle with this myself, but I also see other people around me struggle, especially, I think it's because of the life stage I'm at, right? So For the listeners, I'm 46 years old. I am in, I guess, midlife. Okay. And so if you're at that stage, if you're at that sort of life stage where you've already had a career or you have a long-standing career, and maybe you're thinking about this big vision, a new vision, something you've never done before, sometimes that annoying voice in your head comes in and says, it's going to take years to get there. It's going to take 10 years to get where you want to go. It's going to take 5 years to get where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And you're already, whatever, fill in the blank for whatever age you are. Oh, I can't even imagine that. Right. And it just sort of, it just kind of like all that enthusiasm, all that wonderful vision making and dreaming, which is so important, by the way. I think that's a really important part of the process. But that whole thought of like, oh, really? It's going to take me like 5 years to get there. Oh, I just can't even. Oh, do you know what I'm talking about here? Is
I
this
do.
resonating?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about that. Like, what if you run into that with your clients? Like, how do you address that? Because I do think there's listeners out there that are probably have experienced this, or maybe even in that sort of age range where it starts to become a thing. Like, it's like, it feels a little old. I feel a little old to be starting something so new and it going to be taking so long to get there.
It doesn't have to take long. And that's the beauty of how we live today. I mean, there are a lot of negative things about COVID, and I was thinking about, what's positive about this year? Because, we're coming towards the end of the year, and, what is positive? And it has given me more time to really sit down in lockdown, and work on my business. And it hasn't had to take as long as it could have. And it's not a new business. It's been going and sustaining, but it's grown so much during this year because of that. And, it's a positive to me. Not to be getting on a plane and marching across the US to go speak or do this or do that. It's given me time. So, you have to look at what everyone says, well, how do you do this? And it's all a balance. But if you have the passion in your heart to move you forward, and you're really committed to make that commitment. And sometimes when you pay a coach, that is that commitment, because you're putting out that money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you are saying, I am committed to do this and I'm going to make it happen. And then having a plan and moving forward through the steps. I do one exercise. It's a mind map for people who are in business, because that way, okay, what do you see this business looking like? And then what do you need to support this business? How are you going to get there? And part of it is money goals, but it's also, what do you want your business to look like? I have a really different vision for my business than you probably do, Alex, and we all do. And, we'll put it all together and come up with a plan to move you forward.
I love that. Yeah. And you're so right. I mean, sometimes we think something is going to take a long time and it really doesn't. And going back to the previous point, if you have a mentor or a coach, you can get there so much faster, And I think the only other thing I would add, which I've heard, I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, and she said it, which was, just start, because life goes past really fast. Life goes by really fast.
Oh, yeah.
And so before you know it, a year will have gone by and it's like, wow, I've been doing this for a year. It feels like 2 minutes. So just start, instead of just, thinking about it, just start with where you are, with what you've got, and just go.
Yeah. And get used to being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because it is, because you're going to push yourself in business or in your corporate job. You're going to have to push yourself past that comfort level to grow and gain. I always use the analogy. Remember when you were learning to ride a bike and you had training wheels and you had your mom and dad holding the back of the seat and you didn't want them to ever let go. And then suddenly you get a little more confidence, you get those training wheels off, you still don't want them to let go. And then eventually you're riding all over the neighborhood and you're very confident. And confidence, that's how you build it, little by little, but you have to get in those uncomfortable zones, can't talk this afternoon, to get there. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And life can go by and it can change instantly. You never know what's going to happen.
I love it. Yes. And coming full circle, that is why we need that confidence, that self-confidence to sustain us through all of that. I love it. I love it. Sherry, thank you so much for joining us on the Positive Leadership Movement today. This information that you shared, your 5-step process, has been so valuable. And just some of the concepts that you have talked about, like how to build your confidence, developing the core values and having those so that those support you in all the other shifts that you're going to make as you're up leveling. I just think it's so powerful. I know our listeners are going to want more of you. So how can they get in touch with you? Tell us how they can connect with you further. And I think you also have a very cool offer that you want to share too, right?
I do. Thanks, Alex. So you can find me at my website at Confident Warriors. It's WARRI. I always have to look at this. I don't know why. WARRIORS. It's a tongue twister.com. You can find me there. You can email me there. You can set up some time for us to talk. But I do have actually tomorrow. So space is limited. So make sure if you want to get in on this and hear more about these shifts that I talked about, it's advancement strategies for smart women. So it's those 5 tips. We go into more depth in those. It's a free masterclass and we'd love to have you there. So contact me. I will get you the information and we'll get you signed up.
Awesome. And that's December 17th, right? That
December 7th. Yeah.
And
17th.
It's totally free. People can just sign up for that and they're in.
They're in.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. That's so generous. And give us your website again. Did you say it's Confident Warriors?
ConfidentWarriors.com.
Perfect. Okay. So people can go there and they can sign up there?
They can email me or get in touch with me. I don't have a direct link on there.
Okay. And your email is?
It's Sherry at confidentwarriors.com and it's
awesome.
SHERI.
Awesome. So you heard it here. You can start building your confidence literally tomorrow with Sherry. So Sherry at confidentwarriors.com. I love it. Oh, it's been such a pleasure having Sherry on the show. I want to thank you. I want to thank our listeners for joining us for this episode. And listeners, if you have any positive leadership stories you'd like to share, or you have questions on this week's topic, or maybe you want to get in touch with Sherry and you weren't able to write down her email or her website fast enough, you can always reach her through me. And you can write to me at questions@positiveleadershipmovement.com. I always love to hear from you, whatever you got to share. All right, that is a wrap for this week's episode. This is Alex Bratty signing out and thanking you for being part of the Positive Leadership Movement and inspiring me to do what I do every single day.
Make sure you subscribe to the show. If you like this episode, please rate and review. If you want to get more from Alex, check out Happiness at Work, where she provides leaders with a proven path to cultivate a positive work culture that increases performance, productivity, and profitability. Go to happinessatworknow.com. Join us next week and harness the power of positive leadership for your organization.